Here's former President Dwight Eisenhower in his farewell address on January 17, 1961, expressing his concerns over government control of science.
The free university, historically the fountainhead of free ideas and scientific discovery, has experienced a revolution in the conduct of research. Partly because of the huge costs involved, a government contract becomes virtually a substitute for intellectual curiosity. The prospect of domination of the nation's scholars by federal employment, project allocations, and the power of money is ever present and is gravely to be regarded. Yet in holding scientific research and discovery in respect, as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite.
President Eisenhower's concerns have now come to reality. In this next 4-minute clip, J. Marvin Herndon, Ph.D., explains how that happened. He explains that civilian science is funded on a consensus-only basis, which ignores truth and integrity. The rules for funding civilian science were written in the 1950s, and now, after 7 decades of consensus conformity, the science community is totally corrupt.
The scientific community was functioning on a consensus-only basis. You don't step out of line. Now, how this came about is interesting because toward the end of World War II, Roosevelt wanted to find a way to support civilian science, like the military science had been supported, and this was the basis of Vannevar Bush's report, Science, the Endless Frontier. And in 1951, the National Science Foundation was established to provide a basis for funding civilian science. And these people wrote the rules of how it was done. But the rules were so badly flawed. Well, scientists would evaluate each other's proposal for funding, but they do it anonymously. And people are human. Their first priority is to support themselves and their family. All right, now if you have a job at a university, you have to publish. You have to bring in grants. If you don't, your history. Well, you don't bring in grants and you have real troubles publishing if you go against what is the scientific consensus. In science, consensus is nonsense. I mean, science is a logical process. It's not a democratic process. Then along came these trails, these particulate trails. They weren't contrails, jet exhaust. Ice, the moisture can form ice crystals, which can leave a trail. But in the dry air above San Diego, that doesn't last very long. It evaporates, it sublimates, turns right into an invisible gas. These were different. These were trails across the sky that spread out momentarily, beginning to look like cirrus clouds, and then further spreading out to become a white haze. So being a scientist, I was concerned because I know that particulate particles, pollution particles, have all sorts of negative effects on the body. I mean, this has been quite thoroughly studied by epidemiologists and so forth in terms of just general pollution. And this was pollution that was deliberately being placed. And so I decided to try to figure out what that was. Now, scientists have totally ignored the problem. The scientific community, with their consensus conformity, in 6 decades has become totally corrupted. And so they do not mention, even climate scientists, even those who study the atmosphere, do not mention this deliberate spraying. But thousands of ordinary citizens have. This says more than just trying to do experiments to learn how to control the weather. This is an assault on our planet, assault on human life, assault on natural weather systems, assault on biota in general. This is a kind of barbarism, the likes of which this world has never seen.